I'm Kevin Brown, the pastor of Mount Washington United Methodist Church, and we're growing a garden here. And in the process of growing a garden, we recognize that there are all kinds of ways that we can grow gardens. And when the gardeners who wanted to start growing things outside, when they began their process, there were also people who said, in order to grow a good garden, you have to have pollinators. And we have a young lady in-house. Her name is Noxie Melton, and she is a native beekeeper. And when we got the word out, there are people who said, native plants are important for pollinators. And so we have native plant specialists, and then we have someone to share about how to share and create community in gardening. And all that's going to happen in this hour. I'm very thankful that we have somebody who's going to MC this. So at this point, I want to thank Wyman and introduce you to him. Wyman and his wife Karma appeared on the property a couple of months ago, and she said, "We're from France," and I was like, "But you don't sound like you're from France. You must have developed a really good Kentucky accent." But they have their story, and they're just wonderful leaders in the community garden. And I wanted to introduce him, and then let you then introduce Emily back, and I will take her place.
Okay. Well, this is Guy. I'm from Minnesota, and this is a long way for me to come here. Very Kentucky, eh? Or I could try French, but that won't work too much either. So, we're here. We kind of dropped in. This is like a trial run on this for us as well. But we really appreciate what's going on here at the community garden. And part of that, of course, is native plants, native planting garden. We've got a few around our house, but they're planting a few more here. So I'd like to just turn it over to you and let you talk about being a native gardener.
Yeah. So Emily Grace is a lady who planted basically all of our native plants in the native garden. And when she appeared a couple of months ago, it was just because we posted about having a community garden. And then she shared with me the reason behind her gardening, behind her wanting to be involved as a native plant specialist. And I was struck by it. And she, about 6 years ago, she had some illness, and she has two teenage boys who have autism pretty severely. And she said, I recognized that just spending time in the garden was therapeutic. Just spending time in nature, and she had the story, and she's not a very public person. She was reluctant to say yes today, but I said, you can do it, and she said, I'm willing to do it, very willing to do it. But she had a flare-up of her medical condition, and about an hour ago, she said, I can't make it, but please give people an opportunity to hear my story. Emily says, in the spring of 2019, I decided to add gardens and chickens to my yard to supplement my homeschooling curriculum. Fortunately, I came across a native nursery set up at my local farmer's market. After listening to what they had to say, I decided to give natives a try. I began with a native pollinator patch. During that summer, I saw the native plants thrive and attract many pollinators. The perennials I had purchased from big box stores sat untouched. They looked pathetic compared to the natives. I dug them up and replaced them with more natives. I saw such a difference after creating habitat that I was hooked. As the years went by, I added more natives, flowers, grasses, vines, shrubs, and trees. I removed some invasives and replaced them with natives and non-invasive annuals for more color. I started helping the nursery with their social media and learning as much as I possibly could about natives. My passion and excitement for educating others about natives led me to create my own social Facebook group to learn, share seeds, and create a community. A previously empty landscape has been transformed into raised beds for a kitchen garden and includes non-invasive annuals for a spot of every color. The area includes small native trees and shrubs such as dogwood, sumac, ninebark, and redbud. A huge empty patch is slowly being filled with native pollinator beds, a berry patch, a vegetable garden, fruit trees, and lots of native trees and shrubs, including edibles such as American hazelnut and pawpaw, persimmon, and elderberry. The growth and the trees in the back of the yard filled in quickly. I removed invasive shrubs, more empty space filled with non-invasive zinnias, and a plethora of native host and nectar plants and native grasses. Each summer, my yard is full of butterflies, bees, hummingbirds, birds, and other beneficial pollinators. A journey of replacing invasive non-natives and barren land with native flowers, shrubs, and trees. My yard is now full of life and habitat. And she says Emily Grace Yoakum is homeschooling mom to 2 teens, has been married to Philip for 20 years. Since 2019, she's developed a slight obsession with pollinators, and she enjoys educating others about planting natives and identifying pollinators by sharing pictures and information about native plants, chickens, and wildlife in her yard. She also enjoys making terrible memes and puns that she finds hilarious. But most of all, Emily just wants you to know that she's found tremendous peace, and she would even reference God. A tremendous peace from God. Being in the garden has helped her so much, and she just wanted to convey that to everybody here. And on Emily's behalf, I want to say thank you. If you have a sheet where if you want to make a copy, QR code, Emily's information is on there, and you can take a peek at that. Wyman?
Well, if you're going to have native plants, you probably should have pollinators, right? And that's one of the things that we're doing here as well, is doing native plants and helping out the pollinators. But we want to hear from about bees, native bees, which I actually went and looked up more on native bees last night. I am not the expert on this subject, so, but some of them are pretty interesting.
Hello, I'm Noxie. I'm going to talk to you just about bees, very simply. Quickly, I'm going to talk about who I am, then I'm going to talk about bees and their relationship to humans. We're going to then go more into native bees, and then we're going to go on to bee hotels. I'm Noxie. I'm a junior in high school. I have 2 years of beekeeping under my belt, and I've worked with Bernheim 4's bee team during those years. You're going to see this does act a lot like a high school presentation. It's going to look like a high school presentation. First, we're going to go into the importance of bees. Obviously, pollination. Bees are not the most diverse type of species for pollination. That goes to butterflies and moths, but they are the most dominant. There are only 2 places where you will not find bees: Antarctica and Arctica. 1 out of 3 bites that you eat have been pollinated by bees. You will have any food-bearing plants, including tomatoes, seeds, nuts like peanuts, and fiber, like cotton. With your actual history with the bees, you'll see You have the Anatolian pottery that has bee wax on the inside. Now, this does not mean that these bees we've been beekeeping for all these years, but that does show at least evidence of honey hunting. The first evidence of true beekeeping was in ancient Egypt. We also see that we have Aristotle writing about bee behavior, and Varro gave us info on ancient beekeeping practices like hive shape, and that they did not like pottery hives. We also have 2,000 years of beekeeping history in Asia, but also over 3,500 years of honey being used in medicinal practices in ancient Asia. And you would see that Emperor Gaio in 202 BCE had beeswax candles. Ones that I want to focus more on are the ancient Mayans. They had stingless honeybees. These are most similar to the native bees that we have now. And they don't use beeswax like honeybees to do. They use beeswax mixed with plant resin called cerumen to make these. Also, my favorite fact is the tradition of telling your honeybees whenever something big happens. So whenever there's a marriage, a birth, a move, or even a death, you would go out to your bees and you would have to tell them. Because it said that if you didn't tell those bees, the bees themselves would die. They would be like shocked. Now on to more about the native bees. Overall, there's about 20,000 bees in the world, native bees in the world, and then there's about 4,000 in the US. About 80% of flowering crops are pollinated by native bees. One of the cool facts is that they actually evolved from wasps. They're the vegetarian types of wasps. And they build their nests. Most are solitary, but you will find them both in the ground, in trees. Those are the two main places, but in the ground and in trees. Now, let me get scientific with y'all. I kind of fell down a rabbit hole. I'm going to butcher all these names, but there's about 7 families in the species of bees. You have the Halididae, which is the sweat bee. It's a solitary ground nesting bee, and they eat sweat because they want the salt. You have the Apidae, which is the most all-encompassing one. They're what you think of when you think honeybees, carpenter bees, and bumblebees. The Stenopilmatidae is the smallest family of bees, and they're only found in Australia because, of course, it's Australia. The Melitidae is also ground nesting bees. They're also solitary, but they are special because they're only able to use this one type of plant called the Lysumakia, or the loosestrife. They collect the flower oils from it instead of pollen. The Andreidae are the first bees to come out during the spring. They're the mining bees. And then, of course, we have the Melchicelides bees. These have large mandibles or jaws, and instead of carrying pollen on their legs, they carry it on their torso. They are actually used for commercial crop pollination because they are so good at it, and they are mason and leafcutter bees, the most likely bees that you will find in your native beehives if you so create them. And then also we have the Colididae bees. They're solitary, and they are called that, and they're called cellophane bees because of the fact that they create a clear biological plastic. The big difference between honeybees and native bees is we don't have native honeybees here in North America. Our honeybees came from Europe, and they are what you think of when you think of bees. They have a social hierarchy, they have a queen. They are commercial for their honey. They they actually do sting, and the reason they die after they sting is because the egg sac gets pulled out with them, and that's what dispenses the venom. That's what you're most likely allergic to when you think of bees. They are less threatened. Of course, they're threatened, but they're less threatened because of the work of beekeepers around the world. Native bees evolved with the environment. They are less money and less work to keep because they mostly care about themselves. All you have to do at the end of the year is make sure no parasites after you clean them. They have less commercial value other than the megakilla bees, where those are most likely to be used in orchards and spread out to be able to pollinate. Most native bees do not sting. If they do sting, they don't release venom. They are more likely able to bite, and even that, you are less likely to be allergic to any type of bee bite or bee sting than you are from a honeybee. They are more threatened because of the fact that their habitat is being destroyed. They live in beetle burrows in trees or on the ground, and so they are more threatened. Lastly, I'm going to talk about bee hotels. This is what I was meaning, and I'm going to teach you how to make your own. Now, when you're making a bee hotel, you don't want to use any insect repellent wood, things like cedar. When you drill into any of the types of bee hotels, you're going to want it to be about 6 to 7 inches deep, with it about 6 being around the best for all of them. You are wanting the holes to be about 1/8 of an inch thick or 1/2 inch thick to accommodate different types of bees. It doesn't matter where in the range, just somewhere. You're probably not going to want to paint the wood, mostly because the smell can repel bees, but if you are, let it stay out during the winter, or you're going to have it wait inside for about a month to be able to get rid of the smell. You're going to want it to be about eye level, 5 to 6 feet from the ground. You're going to want protection from elements. You don't want it to be swinging in the wood and wind, and you don't want insecticides, and make sure you have flowers in your garden to be able to feed these native bees. On the screen, we have an example of the native beehive that we have at Bernheim. They have both straw and reed and break-apart boards. Straw and reeds are the simplest type of native beehive. They are closed end, and they're just straws or paper straws or cut bamboo that you put into some sort of container that the bees will then nest in. The one problem is that these straws and these reeds are not reusable. They're not very easy to clean every year, so you're going to want to make sure that you throw out any reeds that are used. There are many different ways to make these straw and reeds, but the most simplest one is just putting all of them into PVC and hanging them on the side of a building. That's the one we have at my school currently. The next one I'm going to talk about is holes in logs. This one's also very simple. You're just going to draw a bunch of the 5 to 8 inch holes into the wood, and you're going to just leave it out for them. Now, I do recommend, if you want to be able to reuse the log that you drill into, make paper slips that you can slip into them so you can more easily clean them, or you're going to have to remake a native beehive every year. The one that we're going to be using here at Mount Washington Methodist Church is break-apart boards. They have many different names, but I call them this because they're just a bunch of slabs of wood stacked upon each other, hold together with wing nuts, and you're just going to drill in between them. It's very simple to clean. You can reuse them every year, and the bees do end up liking them. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the squash bee because most native bees do live in the ground. That's why it's the simplest type, because all you have to do to keep these native bees is because you need to leave undisturbed and exposed dirt. That's it. And then you're going to be drawing native bees to your area. Now, I'm going to talk about the squash bee because there are 2 different types of native bees. There's specialized and there's eccentric. The specialized bees are the ones that are going to only pollinate a specific type of plant, like the squash bee. The squash bee comes around whenever you plant squash or anything similar like. They go into the ground around the plant and they pollinate the squash. Now, because I said I am a high schooler, I have my sources, a lot of them. This is also my Eagle Scout project. I'm making a native beehive for here at Mount Washington Methodist Church for this project.
Way to go. I guess we have native plants, we have bees. Hopefully we have some native bees here. We have things going on. But part of the reason for having a garden is to produce things to eat as well. But, one of the things we plant, my wife actually plants, I'm just kind of the assistant gardener. In other words, I'm just hired muscle. But we seem to always get a lot of zucchini. So what do you do with that? So Noah Curtis is going to come and talk about his project over here.
How you guys doing? So my name is Noah Curtis, and I'm going to be talking about Pioneer Trade Stations. And they are just like what you see back there. They're just little plant stands that allow people to trade their homegrown produce, their fresh backyard chicken eggs, seeds, really all those gardening abundance that you may have when you are growing a garden or have a homestead. And so how it started was in my dad's driveway. We always grew up, we had a garden, and we always had too many tomatoes. Always too many tomatoes, like he said, too many zucchini, squash, and you start giving them away to your neighbors, and eventually they have too many as well. So the idea was to just have a stand like that, and if we all could grow something a little bit different, we could all trade, and we could all benefit from that trade. And so we would have a lot more abundance of different things. We wouldn't be eating the exact same thing that we could grow, but we could kind of use each other to benefit from everybody. So it started in my dad's driveway. Like I said, I built the first station. Asked one of my clients that I was doing gardening work for in the Highlands if I could just put this thing out in front of his house, and he said yes, thankfully, and people started using it. People started trading house plants, trading their fresh veggies, and then it was kind of off to the races from there. So over the past couple years, we kind of had to figure out where we were messing up, how to expand it, and how to keep growing. So this is the first year that we are now in 6 states with it. You can go to our map. There's a QR code back there, and there's a map on our website, and it will show you where all the stations are located. You can put in your zip code and find them. You can also become a host. You can build it, and then you can go on our website and get it activated to the map so people can start trading in your neighborhood. But this is not really just about, tomatoes and fresh food like that, but it's also about communities and connecting communities. I think a lot of times in today's world, we kind of forget about community and how important community is with mental health, physical health, and all that good stuff. And I think if we connect as communities through, obviously, what we're doing is nature inspired, but using nature to kind of build communities. So the mental health side is also a big thing in connecting communities. There's also a big sufficiency side, just self-sufficiency. Obviously, we're doing a community garden here, and just kind of growing more on our properties And like I said, if we are more efficient at doing that through trade, we can just grow more stuff, grow more options, and grow more fresh food so we can all eat from our own gardens. The kind of the last big thing is sustainability. So, when we're growing food, even if we're growing in a home garden, a lot of food goes to waste. I know when I'm growing at the end of the season, I've had enough tomatoes, I've had enough just things that I grow, and I might can some of the stuff, I might freeze some of the stuff, but I still have so much. And for a long time, I was just feeding it to my backyard chickens or just throwing it in my compost, but it was perfectly good food. And so if I can take that food and give it away to my neighbors or trade it to my neighbors for something else, I would much rather have the food that I'm growing given away to people that would use it than just end up in a compost pile. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be sitting back there. Just feel free to come up and ask. And like I said, you can find more about it on our website, pioneergarden.com, and the QR code is back there. And you can find all the trade station hosts, and you guys can kind of get involved and start trading and connecting with your community.
Now I get to introduce the person I know the most about, myself. So I'm going to be speaking for a little bit about stories from the Bible, and I know a little bit about that. One of the things that has always struck me, especially reading through the New Testament, is the idea that God is love. And He created this world with us in mind. It wasn't just like an accident or an afterthought or something, but it was all part of His planning. But part of that planning is He created it with humans in mind and our needs. And part of what we talk about today is, people are sometimes talking about getting back to nature, a simpler lifestyle. And why is that? And part of that is because we draw strength from that, do we not? We draw, especially, there's a point of relaxation, but there's a point of finding peace within ourselves in creation. All of a sudden, this French phrase is coming to mind: the resourcing, reestablishing yourself, so to speak, in nature. And it's something that we like to do. It's something where people find solace and comfort, relaxation, renewal in nature. And partly because it was created for us. And we read in Genesis about the Garden of Eden that God created for Adam and Eve at that point in time. And on your table there is a list of fairly extensive list of different verses that talk about God creating different things. And one of them I looked up was Genesis 1:29, and it says here, "And then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food." And here we are at Garden on the Mount. And some of us are here for different reasons. Part of that is community. Part of it is actually working in the soil and growing things and feeling part of nature and seeing what we can do. And I think part of it is what we're trying to do. It will be sharing with other people. That it's not just for us. It's not just for our benefit. It's not centered on me, so to speak. But gardening here is more than just getting a harvest. It's more than just producing food. It's more than just because they want to produce a community of gardeners, a community who cares for other people, a community that reaches out to neighbors and friends and others, sometimes people in need, maybe somebody out there just really needs some zucchini, and we just happen to have some. I mean, I grew up in northern Minnesota. We had a garden, and it wasn't just a little garden, but we had zucchini, and some years we had zucchini coming out of our ears. I don't think there was anybody within a 50-mile radius who needed zucchini. And because everybody was growing zucchini too, but it's not one of my favorite things to eat, but I do eat it. But it's not just about getting a harvest. I mean, if I just wanted a harvest, I'd probably just plant zucchini because I get tons of zucchini. It just seems like it's one of those things that you plant a seed, you get a plant, you get a flower, and the next day you've got this thing the size of a balloon, and it's a zucchini. You know, all right, how many 25-pound zucchinis can you handle? I really don't like them that big, but here we are. But it's not just about seeing who can grow the biggest zucchini here, or the biggest cucumber, or the biggest tomato. We're not in a gardening competition, so to speak. And part of it, I moved to Mount Washington 2 years ago. We moved from France. So, I mean, we didn't know anybody. We didn't do anything. We just lived here. And then all of a sudden, I saw the little thing for the community garden here in the paper. I mean, it was a strange thing, too, because it was like this one little thing in the paper that they gave us because they want to sell us a subscription to the paper. It's not like this is something I do every week. I'm just like, wow, this is interesting. This is our local community. Whoa, look at that. So call this number, and we did. But the reason for coming is not just to plant plants. It's not just a place to put more seed. It's a place to build a community. You know, I didn't know people when I came here, but I'm learning their names, and I'm still learning names. I'm not a pro here. I'm not one of those people you meet once and he remembers your name 30 years later. I'm more like the guy that you give me your passcode once and I'll remember it 10 years later, but not your name. I don't know. I guess I've got cross wires somewhere in my brain, but numbers make sense. That's why I studied mathematics. But a community, you know, God didn't create Adam and Eve and say, now this is all yours, keep it to yourself. You know, it was like multiply, be fruitful, care for the garden, grow a family, grow a community, grow out throughout the earth. And here we are, and we're part of that same process of going out from there. But part of what we want to do here is grow the community aspect of the garden, not just the plants. Oh, you know, we planted, and then we had something happen, and we had to say, we're out of town. There's been a death in the family, we're out of town. Can somebody help us out watering? And they said, yes, we'll water your garden. We came back, our garden was watered, had been taken care of, so I owe a thanks to those people who took care of us. Well, we saw plants the other day when we were here, and they looked a little thirsty, so we watered them. What's happening? We're learning to care for each other, to care for the garden. It's more than just dirt. It's more than just time. It's not just let's get something out of this. But we hope to have some fresh produce that we can share with people, but it's also part of sharing with others, not just being for ourselves. So we're inviting people into the community. We're inviting people into what we see. You know, Jesus used some parables, and some of his parables were good planting parables. Some of them weren't. Somebody said, you never want to learn farming from Jesus. He was not a good farmer. You know, I lived in West Africa for a while, and people would spread seed this way. Still, they're spreading seed. They wouldn't spread seed on the hard path. They knew not to spread there. But see, Jesus said when he came and he told the parable about the guy who just went out and threw seed everywhere. And that's part of, we don't want to do that. We do want to ask people to come in. You know, that was the parable of the soils, and they're not all good soil. We have some pretty good soil here. But part of it was seeing what grows. What kind of soil is there? Where are we at? So I'm not a great gardener. You wouldn't ask me. You would never give me the thing, master gardener. But to watch things grow. I don't really understand what happens when you plant that seed and it swells and it comes up, and then all of a sudden this shoot comes up, and then it produces whatever fruit that the seed was. You know, we planted beans, and we hope to get beans. You know, I didn't plant wheat. I didn't plant other stuff. I planted certain things and hoping to get those things. And that pretty much works true that you get what you plant. Every once in a while there's a free radical in there, but especially if you're using compost, you get some free radicals. But God is working, and he created the earth in such a manner that things work this way. But we can, as we grow things, as we produce food, here we're looking not only to produce food, but to produce community, to actually reach out to other people, to care for each other. And as I've already said, that people have helped me out in that already. So we're looking for the community that grows. Here, you know, I've met people here and starting to build friendships with people here within the community of the garden. But we're looking out as well. Can we build a share station? Can we share? How do we share for our community, our greater community? How do we find out if those people want to come in and be part of this community? But it wants to be a community that is accepting of other people and bringing them in. They don't have to be of a particular type of person. We want it's open. And then we're seeing that as a really positive thing, that as we take care of the earth, I mean, there are different things that's going on out here. I like the trade station idea. I believe that, you know, we ought to produce one here, a place to deposit and pick up garden produce. I like the native plant idea, not just a garden for us, but a garden for the animals or the insects as well. I like the idea of organic gardening. They've got a Three Sisters plot out there that now acknowledges the heritage. But it's taking care of the earth, and it's taking care of each other. And that's part of what we're producing as a community here in Mount Washington with the community garden. Thank you. We're going to hear a story now about the story of our land.
Good evening. It's so good to see everybody here today. Such a full church. Noxie did such a great job with the bees, and we had great music, and that was a great testimony. I appreciate everybody coming today. I'm going to tell you about the land. As we dedicate this garden on the mount today, we recognize that we are owners of this property in name only. This land was not made by our hands, nor did we receive it by any works on our part. Our Creator God made this land, and our only role is to be stewards of it. So when we till it, when we work it, when we seed it and water it, we recognize that it is not ours, but it is a gift for us to cherish and take care of. We stand in a long line of persons who have owned the property, but in reality, they have also been stewards. We recognize the Fishers, the Porters, the Moores, owned and stewarded this property prior to 1973. Before them, the Grisby family owned and stewarded this property since the foundation of the city of Mount Washington in 1833. During that time of settlement, the property saw orchards growing, a vineyard, and at times various crops and farm animals. Prior to Kentucky's settlement in the 1700s, the land was stirred by several different native people. They include a list that I can't say most of their names, so I'll say Cherokees and Hopewell culture and Shawnees, and you can read the list for the rest. These native people did not understand the relationship to land and landowners. They were stewards. This practice originated with the Iroquois people is a form of sustainable agriculture where the three crop benefits each other's growth. In honoring these people, our children have planted the three sisters at the end of our garden. With grass growing because native people did not till, we will keep these three sisters here as a reminder of our heritage, going back thousands of years. Thank you.
I want to take the time now to, one, thank all of the gardeners. It was my goal, and it was the team's goal. Tyler was one of the team members, and Emily Allison, one of the team members, and Melvin Davis, one of the team members. It was our goal to see what God would do with this garden. And it was my goal personally on this day to have the gardeners that came lead. It's the gardeners. I didn't know any of these people 6 months ago. Dave Jerome, I did not know you 6 months ago. I didn't know your wife. I didn't know your daughter. I didn't know your daughter's friends. I didn't know your daughter's friends' friends. I did not know Wyman. I did not know Karma. I did not know Wyman and Karma's friends and family. I did not know William Cinnamon. I did not know William's family and friends. I did not know Alice Harris. The list goes on of people I did not know. I did not know Noah Curtis. I did not know his father. I did not know his story. I did not know his sweetheart. I did not know that she sings. I did not. And I'm just very thankful for the truth that is when we plant a seed, God grows it if we simply nourish it. And I'm so thankful for the Spirit. You may not know this, but Wyman is an ordained pastor in another denomination. They came from France because they spent most of their adult life as missionaries in France and in Africa. They lead. They've led, and there are various people with various gifts and talents who have brought those gifts and talents to the table. And one of the things I wanted to just reassure folks is that one of the reasons that this is in the afternoon is that we're not trying to make people Methodists. We're not trying to make people United Methodists. We're not trying to make people into any kind of Christian. We're not trying to make people into any kind of God lovers. However, we of the people at Mount Washington United Methodist Church do want to offer people an opportunity to know who we are, to know who our God is as we understand, and to know what our Jesus is about, who is the new Adam of the new creation. And I just wanted to say that. And you don't ever have to join. You don't ever have to be involved. But I wanted to make sure that you knew while you're here, there are lots of ministries of our church that don't seem very religious-y. You understand about religious-y? If you just looked at the ministries, you'd go, oh, that's not the... I want you to know the religion that we experience here. And you don't have to be involved with it, but I want you to know what we offer. Morning worship is at Sundays at 10 o'clock. Gathering for prayer at 6. Sundays, right after worship, we have, this coming Sunday, we'll be having pizza with the preacher. And Pizza with the Preacher is what we had today. And we're going to be learning lessons from the garden in Pizza with the Preacher that involves children. We reach out to folks who are struggling in this world. We have scouting ministries on Tuesday evening. We have scouting ministries on Thursday evening. This morning, while worship was going on, scouts were being picked up and dropped off at our property. We have a surging group. If you don't know what a surging group is, it's kind of like sewers with cool machines. God's Table. If you want to Gloria, would you raise your hand because you're a God's Table contact? Red Cross. We have Red Cross once every 2 months. Karen Fisher is our contact. Tutoring Children, Karen and Tita Khan. Tita, would you raise your hand? And you know that lady over there, Carrie? Carrie is one of our tutors, and Success is one of our students, and she is a success. And I want to credit Tita Khan because Tita Khan's picture became famous throughout Mount Washington. I thought, she's from Africa and she probably loves to garden. And so I said, Tita, would you like to garden? She said, oh yes, can I start now? And it was like it was in March and she was trying to plant stuff from Africa. And I was like, hold off, you gotta hold off. But I took a picture of her and that picture she's the reason that so many people were attracted. I don't know, it was the smile, I don't know what it was. But I think everybody else who was a gardener saw her picture. That connection. Veterans, how many, there's Rich back there, one of our expert gardeners now, was here as a veteran. Dennis, you're a veteran leader along with Tyler. We have gardening ministries. We have nursing home ministries. Normally on the second Sunday of every month, we are at the nursing home. We have community ministries. We have Grace Kids ministries on the west side of Louisville. We have folks who are involved in immigration ministries. We have folks who are involved with the Kentucky United Methodist Children's Home. How many of you in the building know about the Kentucky United Methodist Children's Home? You know? Aren't they cool? Well, one of the persons that I did not know, I needed to know, I get this email every month about the Kentucky Methodist Children's Home. And there's this email that came from John Mark Bose. And I thought I just got connected with Allison Bose. I wonder if they are connected. And lo and behold, Allison, do you claim your husband, John Mark Bose? So the Kentucky Methodist Children's Home marketing person his wife is there, and she claims him. My wife does not claim me. Mountain Missions is an opportunity for people to give their gently used items, and we're collecting things this coming weekend. Africa University is a ministry of the United Methodist Church, and we even have learning sessions and opportunities to learn about creation justice and creation care. That's why you have a sheet of paper on your table about that. All that's to say, my God just connects people in ways that I cannot control. And I love the connection, don't you know? I just love the connection. And if we plant the seed and water it and grow it, then God will do what God does with gardens. So I wanted to say thank you for all that, and thanks to God for the connection. And the dedication's nothing formal at all, other than I want us together just to hear these words of dedication for the space that's out there. And if you have the opportunity to walk around, one of our gardeners will just show you the native plants, the produce area that they're gardening, the Three Sisters, the biblical plant garden, the raised beds that are going to happen. But I'd like for you to hear these words. Oh God, creator of all, thank you for giving us all that is. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to tend your ground in Mount Washington, Kentucky. Thank you for us giving us the opportunity to live during this time. And so we consecrate this garden space so that everything that you want to grow will be produced. Amen? Everything that God wants to grow will be produced. Amen?